just been having the most interesting conversation with our guest here, who is one of the UK's most prolific and I have to say finest actors, and you'll know him for his work in Wicked Little Letters, which was a terrific film not too long ago, and Mr. Turner, award-winning turn in that, The King's Speech, to name but a few. I've got more that I want to talk to him about in a moment. He's now starring in the BBC's latest comedy drama. It's called Death Valley. It's a beautiful, great fun drama that I got to watch the first episode of last night, a nod to iconic TV detectives in comedy crime drama. And it is a pleasure to welcome Timothy Spall to the studio. Welcome, Timothy.
Well, it's very nice to be here, Ryan.
Let's start at the very beginning, shall we? Yeah.
Why not? It's a good place.
It's a very good place.
Controversial place, but there we are.
You looked out the window at the lovely view and you pointed to the Shard and you said, do you know what's great about that building? And maybe you'll share it with us in as polite a fashion as you can.
Well, I will, yeah. There is a restaurant up there.
Yeah.
And the restaurant's fine. I've been there for a bit, but it's got the most scenic place to have a wee on earth.
Who knew?
Yeah, so it's like flying and urinating.
At the same time.
Yeah, and you have to be careful not to get too distracted. You want to go back into the restaurant without losing a certain amount of dignity. Yeah.
So keep your dignity intact.
Your dignity, your eye on the game. I see.
Okay, so that is the best advertisement to go to the top of the Shard that I've heard since I've got here.
I don't think it's quite the top. That would be a bit chilly up there.
And the nosebleed wouldn't help matter.
No.
Okay, we've got so many places to go here this morning, Timothy, but let's begin with Death Valley, obviously. Yeah. That's the reason you're here in many respects. And this is a lovely programme where, well, why don't you give us the pitch for it and we can trash it out?
Well, yeah, it's all set in rural Wales in the present time, and it's focuses on a police force, a rural police force, and a detective, female detective, who's ambitious, slightly unusual, quite eccentric, good cop, but disarming in an eccentric fashion, to say that. Brilliantly played by Gwyneth Keyworth. And she's got this hero worship that she has for a actor who played a detective called Caesar when she was young. She binge-watched it because she was going through dealing with a certain amount of grief when she was a young person. She happens to be a big fan of crime, telly, and also now a policewoman. Yeah. And in this show she used to watch called Caesar, an actor called John Chappell mysteriously disappeared at the height of his success, 10 years previously, and nobody had heard of him. Now, during this investigation of what they consider to be probably a suicide in this rural area of a property developer, she's knocking on the door and she can't believe it. She knocks on the door and this bearded, grumpy recluse, and it's him. Yeah. And she invites herself in. She's a massive fan.
As played by you.
Yes, this is by yours truly. Yeah. And they strike up a relationship. Quite a sparky one from right off, because she goes from her hero worship to insult almost immediately, and quite a vice versa. He says something to her that becomes true, and this offsets this sparky, unusual relationship between these two eccentrics from cross-generational. Yeah. They go on these escapades to try and find out these various crimes, mostly murders, but also they're underpinned with a certain emotional quality because they've both got things they're not coping with themselves, that they can recognise each other. They're very good at spotting other people's faults, but not their own.
I love that. And they're on the denial of it all, and the eccentricity covers up a multitude as well. Yeah. So what on the face of it, this is a kind of like, it's a funny and to an extent light, but at the same time there's a humanity, and that streak is important to the...
It's always important to me, and I think you don't want to overladen it, because it is what it is. It's an entertainment show, and hopefully it's funny. But it's also about something serious, but it's done in a way that is, these people who deal with this kind of murders and crime, they have a very particular way of looking at these things.
Yes, for sure.
But this mixture of, and to be absolutely straight, John Chappell knows he's not a detective, but what he prides himself on, in somewhat of a conceited actorly fashion, is his ability to use his actor's psychology and his understanding of human nature to delve what the contradictions and the contradictions within contradictions are of people's humanity. So he can often take a sideways view in conjunction with her more, investigatory way.
But it also gives you the chance to flex your comedy chops. You because you've got such a vast range. But even just meeting you today off air, you clearly have you see the humour in life. You know what I mean?
often I try to see. I mean, because it's always very close to tragedy. That's the problem. You've got to keep it light because it's always coming around the corner.
But Timothy, some people that do the job you do kind of lean into the serious side of things, in real life, rather than the humorous side of things. I get the sense that you got a great sense of humor and you're happy to do all sorts.
Well,
of
somebody
things.
said to me the other day, and I wasn't aware of it. I've recently done a lot of heavy drama. I did The Sixth Commandment, which was a big, very serious thing, and then the Wolf Hall I was in, and then a couple of, and I thought, oh blimey, it's funny how people get a view of what you don't have that general view of yourself. It's you do what you do.
It's perception of viewers, because I saw you in Wicked Little Letters, and you're a nasty piece of work.
Very
in that,
nasty.
like really nasty. And poor Jessie Buckley, my fellow countrywoman, and Olivia Colman. If you haven't seen that film, by the way, watch it this weekend. It's a gem of a movie.
It's lovely, yeah.
But again, it's that
they're
sort
both fantastic in it.
Well, it's a great cast. It's a great film, and I hope you enjoyed making that.
I did. Yeah. They were lovely girls.
Yeah, for sure. But you were not a nice man, and I didn't know what to expect coming in the door here today as a result.
Well, you never know, do you?
No, you don't.
I can turn.
But it's credit to you. You're obviously so good at what you do that I just don't know what's coming through the door.
Well, you've got to try and keep people guessing.
Yeah, that's for sure. And do you have a preference? Do you like the lighter end of things and having a laugh, or do you prefer to? Because you're in Hamlet coming out. You're Polonius.
I am indeed. Yeah, that's another bit.
That's another heavy one.
But I think, to me, obviously. Each job veers towards one side or the other of things, but I think there's always, as far as I can see, one of my favourite things is that where you get that mixture of both seriousness and actually the comic side of what plays out in an everyday. That there are, depending how you look at it, without in any way treading on people's tragedy or whatever, you can see there's always a ludicrous side to the things. And also where when you're fined, where terrible things happen, people often keep a very good, strong sense of humour to get through it, to actually get through it. So sometimes you'll veer one way, sometimes you'll veer the other. Sometimes you'll go straight down the middle, and it can be, well, like Mike Leigh, for instance, who I've done a lot of work with. He's a master at creating this mixture of tragic comic characters.
Heavy on the tragedy, but I know what you mean. But at the same time, you're quite right. Very often the funniest moments can come from the darkest corners.
Yeah. And also that amazing thing of bathos, where you get something that's all set up to be the most tragic thing, and somebody says something that completely tips it on its head because it's ludicrous, or it's become inappropriately sentimentalized by somebody who doesn't quite get it,
There's a great film called The Journey. I interviewed Colin Meaney at the time because he played Martin McGuinness, and you played opposite him as Ian Paisley.
I did.
And I thought, what is this going to be like? That is a terrific film. Went a little under the radar for my liking, but tell me about that film, just your recollections of it.
Well, it's about the two last men standing, really, the two most extreme, the two opposites at the end.
So you had
really.
Sinn Féin and DUP.
Yeah, absolutely. There was no one else. All the moderates had gone away. There was no one left. So really, it was them two. If they didn't make an agreement, they'd already had a certain agreement, but they had to ratify it. So they took them off to St Andrews Hotel in Scotland. And then the film centres around the fact that they've both got to get back. It's Dr. Paisley's, I think, 50th wedding anniversary, and the proviso is that they go on the same plane, and they have to get driven in this wagon, this sort of
people carrier
thing. It turns out to be, the young driver turns out to be MI6, but they're watching. They're trying to get these two guys to find an affinity with each other so they can seal the deal on the peace street.
Yes,
and it's about that, and it's actually quite funny at times, and it's quite hard, and they're pretty at each other all the time. But it's about two intractable people who ended up becoming actually friends from the complete opposite side. Who became very friends. They became known as the Chuckle Brothers.
It's the most unlikely. That's what they were called. Who knew?
And they knew they had to. The two of them, although they were both uncompromising, knew they had to do the deal, and it's. I mean, it's holding. We know it has its moments, but it's held.
It's remarkable. Yeah, and you're just the pair of you are brilliant in it.
Oh, well, he's lovely, Con.
He's good fun.
It's a great performance.
You were with him in the Damned United as
Indeed,
well.
he wasn't brilliant as Don Revie.
Don't do yourself down. You were brilliant in it too, but he was great.
I was all right.
Great enough. But it's a great film and a great book. And then finally, I have to give reference to somebody who I think is going to be a superstar. He's on the way already, but your co-star from The Sixth Commandment, Aina Hardwick.
Is he not a brilliant actor?
Like you guys,
superb.
the chemistry between you guys in that film was not. You won the BAFTA for that.
I did.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. That was nice. I enjoyed that.
I think it's one of my favourite pieces of drama in the last few years.
Well, thank you.
Internationally, it was just knockout.
Well, it was really. I knew it was an interesting piece, but sometimes you don't know how well these things are going to go.
Yeah.
But Aina, I think. I mean, that performance, that central performance, really, it's so terrifying and so brilliant. And I'm here to tell you, he's one of the loveliest guys. I don't know if you've spoken to him, but he's
We've spoken on the line because
he's a charming fella and a brilliant actor. And I think he's going to do well. No
I think
doubt
he'll
about
go
it.
all
He
the way.
deserves it.
Yeah.
He deserves it.
Yeah, that's great. Nice to get your blessing, I'm sure, as well. Timothy, it's been really lovely to meet you. We should do it again sometime. I hope we do. Maybe at the top of the charts.
Yeah, well, that's it. We'll see. Yes, I'll
buy
give
you a pint of water.
And I'll try not to point with two hands.
Death Valley hits all your screens on BBC Two this Sunday. That's May the 25th, and it's a perfect night for it. Actually, it's a lovely evening for that drama, and I think you'll get a great kick out of it. Timothy Spall, our guest today. Have a beautiful weekend, and nice to talk to you.
Lovely to talk to you, Ryan. Have a nice weekend.
Virgin Radio.